Hey everyone, this is Louis7, and I have a special project that I want to share about how I make videos specifically for the Lord of the Rings Online. So here I am sitting in-game in LOTRO and recording a sort of live commentary, but that is not how most of my videos work nowadays. Instead, I actually follow this general flowchart that you can see on screen right now. But I do want to point out this video and special project is actually because my channel is nearing 10,000 subscribers at the time of recording this video. So if I hop on over to YouTube here, you can see my channel has 9,951 subscribers, and that is why I'm doing this video. So I do hope people find it useful. But let's go ahead and get into the process and starting with a video. So first, how do I know what video I want to make? So first of all, I have to get an idea of the video. For example, patch review videos are very easy because a new patch will come to LOTRO, and if it's not like very minor with 2 changes, I will very likely make a video on it. But other commentaries, a lot of other commentaries I do at least, I try to write a list of them. Now, I'm not going to spoil all the videos I have upcoming or just ideas for because they are just ideas right now and I write everything down. The second thing that is necessary is a vision, as I have here. So just as we have a nice vision of Forakel in the background in LOTRO, I have to have a vision for what the video is going to look like from the start to the finish pretty much. And then once I have that vision, I can actually make a plan for the video. And the first thing with the plan typically starts with either I get inspired by some sort of in-game footage or background gameplay, or even some like stream highlight I have done a couple times where I want to make a video based on something I see in-game. But I will typically start, most of my commentaries are topical commentaries, some people call them like video essays. I will always start them with this writing process, just as I have done for this right here. So with this process, it's about outlining and scripting a video. This example is actually an outline, because as you can see, I don't actually have a script where I'm basically reading every single word on the script. It's just an outline of topics for me to talk about, and I'm kind of coming up with that as I am doing the commentary here. But as an example for my Is Harad Next for LOTRO in 2022 video, this is basically a full-blown script. I have found over the years that doing a full script really helps with commentaries like that so I don't either repeat myself a lot. That was a really big issue I had early on. And the second big issue was I would just get off track and not really talk about something relevant, or just kind of like I'm doing right now, not really having an idea of what to talk about. So that's why I find scripting to be pretty important. But sometimes I like my videos to be a little bit more conversational and maybe natural. So some of my top 7 videos, for example, like my top 7 specs video and my top 7 zones video, I would follow this outline of topics to talk about. So like for the zones, I would talk about the questing experience, I think the world building and different things like that, just how fun the zone is. And for if I'm talking about my favorite classes or specs, I would say I need to talk about the building aspect of them, their actual gameplay, class fantasy, and again, how fun it is. Things like that would go into outlining, kind of as you see in this video right now. I had to think about my process, so I outlined what I actually do for my video making process. And the next thing is going to be, like, for the writing, I have to do some research because I like to have technically accurate information. I don't like to share bad information. And I might just have to research about the topic, like, is Harad next for LOTRO? I did not know basically much about Harad besides it was a desert. Well, I found out a lot about Harad, and one of the things you might see here, I had to do research that Volume 5 there were actually hints pointing towards Harad in that in-game with LOTRO, and just some other things with Harad and the environment going on there. Also, there could be some in-game information about some topic I want to cover. So while not relevant to Forakel here, if I were doing something like a guide, for example, if we go to the legendary items panel, it could just be looking at user interface panels in the game with like LIs. Maybe there's information on whatever I want to cover in the game. There's also the deed log and all sorts of things like that. Character stats, I've made videos on stats and you can actually see the percent stats. You can investigate things in the game by increasing or decreasing those stats by changing your gear to see how that affects things, and that's a big process I did for some of my guides, as well as, well, we have trait information. That's another pretty big one, and just tooltips for skills. One other thing is plugins like combat analysis can be really helpful to do that investigational part of the video process and just finding out the actual information. And sometimes I should point out that these don't necessarily always have to go together, like, or in the specific order. I don't always have like the idea vision plan for a video. Sometimes I actually have to do some research and find some in-game info before I can actually have the vision and plan, and that happened with like the stat guide. I had the idea that I want to do a stat guide, but then I had to actually do some research to make sure I knew how stats work. The LOTRO wiki is also a good source specifically for stats. But yeah, there's also that type of thing that always goes into my videos. But this still is the general flow, like knowing what video I want to make and then actually writing it out. All right, so I put a little blank space here on purpose because there are some other things when I am just finding out what I want to write that might not fit into this like research or in-game info process, just anything else that can go into writing or outlining a video would fill in this blank. So once I have the actual plan for a video, and once I actually have something like the script done or outline done, as I do for this video, I go into recording it with, I use OBS, I use Open Broadcaster software, and this is going to be very trippy, but this is what it looks like. This is what I am doing right now. I just moved it over from my left monitor to my right monitor. If I go to scene, it will actually show LOTRO. I am not in LOTRO right now. I don't have to be in LOTRO. And this is actually a good time for me to point out each of these individual topics. I was hoping to do a whole video dedicated to each of them. So you saw OBS was a little bit of a mess there, but this is actually a very good example why outlining sometimes does not work, because I actually forgot to talk about my plan to talk about each of these individual topics in their own videos. So something like writing slash doing the outlining slash scripting, I actually have this video that I'm working on, currently titled Untitled Document, about is LOTRO pay to win. I do actually plan to make a video. I have this whole thing, the idea, the vision, the plan. I still need to do some research and in-game info, but I have all that covered for this video. So I'm going to be making this video, but I'm going to be recording myself as I make this video. And the plan is all of that process will each become individual videos with probably won't have what video to make because I've covered that quite a bit on this one, but the writing and outlining, how I actually do write essentially a script, I will cover in that behind the scenes type video, and then I'll cover a little bit more on recording with OBS, what I will do with that, and same with editing, thumbnail, and the actual YouTube upload. But anyway, we can get moving on from that little sidetrack, and the next thing I will do with recording typically is the commentary, but as I mentioned, I might already have some background gameplay, and I might even have some in-game footage that I'm already doing and maybe already have that recorded. So these don't necessarily have to be like I do commentary, then I do in-game footage, then I do background gameplay. It doesn't necessarily have to work out that way. Also with background gameplay, an important note on that is I only try to use that as a filler. I actually don't like to have background gameplay if I don't need it. I'd like to have something actually like relevant to the video if possible. That's where the more in-game footage, and maybe even if you think in more typical production, something like A-roll footage, B-roll footage, try to fit that in where I can instead of having this filler footage, as I would call it here. Also, as I randomly look to my monitor on the right here, one thing I often do is listen to music. Not for everybody, but it does. It's one reason I'm like always wearing headphones in videos, and I have found that I even do sometimes listen to music while I'm recording just for some background noise. Something to consider if it maybe would help you in the video process. But anyway, what I am doing right now would be a sort of combination of these two. I would be doing the commentary and not really in-game footage. I'm just like, I'm having Google Docs footage. That is where I write all my outlining and scripting is in Google Docs. By the way, I used to use Microsoft Word, but that's super slow and annoying. So now I just use Google Docs, and that is what I do there. Okay. Oh yeah, so camera setup for the face cam. Now is time to play back a video that I recorded about actually setting up my camera. Okay, so one important reminder is to actually make sure OBS is recording, and when you pause it that you don't forget to resume it, because I just recorded a whole clip while I was paused. Anyway, now I am going to discuss a little bit about my setup and the camera. So this camera at the very start of this clip is going to be in the standing position. So a bit of background, my desk is just like a desk can't go up and down for sit stand as much as I would like something like that. That is what's going on with the camera. I have to change the position. It takes a while to get it in the proper sitting position, but you might also notice that I have a lamp right next to the camera. So my lighting situation I would call a little bit weird, but it's this type of thing where you have to make compromises between comfortability, how comfortable you are, and how good quality the video can be. So I consider my lighting to be quite decent even in the evening because a lot of my light comes forward, and if I even open these, actually, like, the light gets really drawn out by the outdoor light, even though I do like outdoor light. So that's another compromise. I'll close my blinds, curtains, so we don't get too much outdoor light, and it's better direct lighting against my face. One thing I do have is the lamp is tilted to the side, you might notice, which is odd, but I do that so the diffuse light is what is hitting me if I do need that light on to really improve my lighting. And technically it is better lighting, I think, with that on, but I don't think I need it right now. And for most commentaries where I'm sitting, I don't have it on, so I just keep it off. Otherwise, for lighting, I do actually have 3 lights behind my 3 monitors. The monitor on the right and the left, I actually have proper lamps behind them. And then I have LED strips, I think 4 LED bars, that would be better to call them, LED bars behind my main monitor, and they're fairly white. So yeah, the whole point of this, as this clip is really long, is it's just a little bit difficult and can be hard, take a lot of time. It's time consuming to get the lighting and the camera set up as good as I want it to be, and I do believe it to be important to like up the quality of my videos. Also, as you might see, I can get interrupted by my cats a lot, which yeah, that does happen. It's something I have to work around, but it's okay because I love them. And this cat here is Lexi. You might hear me describe her as the skinny one because she's skinnier than Piper, the relatively fat one. And she just wanted to say hello and even rub against the camera. So shout out to Lexi there. All right, we have finally made it back to this view, and that is part of the camera setup for Facecam and all that. Also, audio setup, that is something I did not actually put in the notes. See, something I forgot about, but the microphone I'm using, you all might not be able to hear me as well, but this is the microphone I'm using and generally how I have it positioned, but I like the microphone out of view on the camera. So I usually have it down here just out of view, and I do a lot of settings in OBS to get it perfected. Just like with the camera setup, I have to spend a lot of time to make sure it's good quality and all that sort of stuff, at least good quality as I can make given the hardware. But there is a lot of fine-tuning that I do with audio and software that I don't necessarily have to do with my camera, so that is an important note. A lot of that is actually in the in OBS is actually where a lot of my filters are. So audio setup, I will put that there, which includes microphone. Okay, so in-game footage, that is, yes, recorded with OBS. Covered that, I think, decently. This is, if we go to the game, this is what the game looks like. I run at pretty high settings, and more of the limitations on that are either LOTRO or whatever game I'm running or my hardware. So the next section is editing, and there's a lot that goes on with editing. So the first thing I will point to about this project is it is my base project, just so y'all know. So the way I do my edits, and this is something I would probably recommend, is to make some sort of base project that has your intros, outros, and just resources you use a lot. I have a bunch of audio files, a lot of in-game LOTRO music, and other free music that I can use and use while I monetize my videos. If we go to something LOTRO and not Sea of Thieves, which I have one in screen for, this is what it would look like. But anyway, the program I use is important. I use Davinci Resolve, which is actually, I use the completely free version. This is a full-feature, full-fledged editor, and it is free. In fact, I like it so much, even it being free and me only needing the free resources of it, it makes me actually consider buying the full version, which is a pay once for lifetime use of it. It's not like a subscription service like Adobe, which is quite annoying. And the reason I don't use Premiere Pro anymore, which is what I used to use, is because Adobe finally realized I was not at my old school where I was getting that. I think it was, at first it was free, but then it was a student discount, but with the whole monthly thing, I didn't want to do that. And they, again, realized I wasn't actually in my old school anymore, so that was done. But anyway, I use Davinci Resolve. I do like it. It's, I would say there are some things slightly less efficient than Premiere Pro, and just some things I could definitely be better about editing. But The whole editing process, there are quite a few things that go into that. Again, I will have a video focusing more on this specifically in detail, but I often do multiple video tracks for if like my face cam, I might have that as its own video track over background gameplay or whatever in-game footage that I talked about. I'll have multiple audio tracks, so I actually record commentaries. So yeah, I actually record commentaries like this little one that you would have seen earlier with a bunch of different audio tracks. So I have the combined audio track. That's the first one. This was all set up in OBS, by the way. That has all the audio going on. The second one is going to be desktop audio, and then the third one is going to be the microphone audio only. And the fourth one, I believe, is another microphone source I had. I think it was my webcam microphone source, but I don't really use that one. It's almost a little bit of a backup if my microphone cuts out, but I don't think that's actually properly set up right now. So yeah, that is what like a typical video clip that I have will look like. And again, if I want to put my face cam on it, if we just have, let's do this random thing. Yeah, sure, we'll do this random video that I have no idea what it was. Might have been a test clip, but there's my slightly more messy living room. You can actually tell it's evening time since it's so much darker in the background. That's kind of interesting, but anyway, that's totally irrelevant. That's just the general editing. And one of the things I have to do a lot is cut, where I will often, so I'm not perfect. I don't go through scripts like this. If I'm just reading the script, I will not go through it like completely correct. I also sometimes add stuff in the moment and that sort of stuff. So editing is pretty important there. I want the video to flow well, not have too many blank spaces, and even with video transitions, adding multiple video layers, different B-roll type things. That's pretty important with editing. All right, so next up is the thumbnail process, and this one's kind of interesting. So I do like to be completely open about my video process, and it is quite messy. So my newer thumbnail making processes, I do crop out individual characters. It can sometimes take a lot of time, but I crop out individual characters for whatever I want to be the main character, the main feature of the thumbnail, because the reality is that that is what people click. If I could just put some sort of text like leveling and rating as the main text and not have to worry about putting these characters in here, I would do that. I also do like to throw somewhat Easter eggy characters in sometimes if I have the time, and even have the files ready, have the images ready. So like this is when we were doing Anvil of Winterstith, this is the dragon in that Hrimmel, she's also in Gundabad, but Frostheart. But anyway, that's not really relevant, but that's what's going on. So yeah, I do use GIMP. Once again, I forgot to point out which program I am using, and I have a bunch of different like croppings. I call them croppings, where I just crop characters, and I basically have a database of cropped characters and NPCs or whatever in the game. This is for Angle of Mythaethel era. And then I usually do a background image. So this one's a little bit odd because this is my only background image, but if I hide this, sometimes I actually do use multiple layers. So it will give it a little bit of a neat effect. So just doing a bunch of blurs and having those at certain opacity can change things. Like if I increase the opacity of that, it's almost like a light shining type thing, and having it really low just adds a little bit of effect that some people might notice. It just, to me, can make the image more visually appealing, which is honestly the most important part with the thumbnail, sometimes as unfortunate as that may be. But yeah, the whole point of this is there is a whole process in the thumbnail making, and it is quite important. So I actually think the better way to look at this, rather than the program I use, GIMP, is to actually look at my channel. So this is my YouTube channel, and this is what it looks like, and these are what my thumbnails look like. So an important thing with the thumbnails is you want them to be very legible. Whatever text you have, you want to be able to very easily read it. You have to think about even phone screens. Okay, not that small, but you have to think about really small screens and being able to read this. Like I can read Den of Puglok instance guide, Assault on Durstrach instance guide from all the way over here, so that seems quite fine. But there's, outside of just how big the text is, you also want decent contrast with the background so you can actually read it. So sometimes there are like white text and white background, and even for my own videos it can be hard to read, like Dalelands and Erebor. While I can read that, it's a bit harder. Strongholds of the North has strong shadow behind the text, so it's a little bit easier to read. These Mordor ones were a little bit weird since it's all like red there. Sometimes it was hard to get good thumbnails for it. Thrang in summer, the red's a little bit hard to read, but want to go on about that. And another thing with colors with thumbnails, just as I'm thinking about it, is white and yellow seem to be the best colors, which is why you see a lot of my stuff being white and yellow, is because that just seems to be the best color that people like clicking for thumbnails compared to other ones. But I do also like this light blue teal that I use somewhat frequently. Yeah, there is all that going on with the text and also the background. I like very good color, saturated, and even decent contrast backgrounds for my thumbnails. It's just, once again, one of those things to try to make your thumbnails more visually appealing for people to click on them. That is one thing I notice if I just think about random LOTRO videos people make. Sometimes the thumbnails are not that great. In fact, I was thinking we could go to YouTube and just search LOTRO and see what pops up. Well, that's already a popular video and that's a decent thumbnail. Something like this pros and cons ones, the color of the text is something that doesn't quite mesh well with me, although that's an overall neat thumbnail design. Hey, you see a couple of my stuff. Like the Lord of the Rings Online from scratch. Again, that's a very popular video and the thumbnail isn't the most important thing, but it can be a little bit hard to read the from scratch, and there's not much highlighting of the character in the front, and the background's like it's not blurred basically. I didn't talk about background being blurred, but in all of my videos, basically, I blur the background, so it gives a little bit of a depth perception. Like this one. Wow, a lot of my videos here. Nice. But that is something I do notice a lot as well that I have started to do. I don't know if it's necessarily the best. You can see this ending video. He has the background blurred. He has the stonks going down and the Lord of the Rings Online logo. A lot of people do angled stuff. I haven't done it too much for my angle of Mythathel, which is not here, unfortunately. I did actually angle the angle of Mythathel, but typically I do straight text. But it's another thing that's a balancing act. I talked about that a lot with the balancing acts between compromising, I'd say, between what you want to actually be in the thumbnail and how much like people will click it. But in a sense, it's like, how much do you really want to modify whatever is going on in like the video or whatever, the image, versus making it visually appealing? Okay, so with this video, it is getting very rambly about the thumbnails, but that's just the general idea behind it. Good, easily readable text, even on like a small screen or a very small icon of the thumbnail, and also having a character stand out and a decent background that meshes with the style of the thumbnail and whatever is going on, and something that, for me at least, I like it to not be too flashy. Maybe that's the way I would ultimately put it. Don't like it to be too flashy, but still have some visual appeal, good contrast, good colors, and again, matching whatever, being just consistent with the theme of the thumbnail and the video and the such. All right, so moving on, the final thing we actually have is the YouTube upload itself, now that we have covered the thumbnail. And I also do want to highlight editing. So I got really rambly there during some parts of the thumbnail, and that's the reality when I record a video that's an outline, or I don't even have outlines for the thumbnail. So I just talked and went to all these different sources. So maybe with editing, I can clean some of that recording up and you all will never actually see it. But that is to be like completely open with my content. Sometimes I do have to actually do that and can sometimes edit out like just a couple minutes of me rambling, repeating myself, or something that I just don't think people want to watch, or just won't be important. It won't be relevant to the video. It'll add time, but won't really be much meaningful content. But yes, next up we have the YouTube upload itself, which I don't actually have a video to upload right now, but just a couple things. There are definitely important things with that. All right, so this is not quite my channel dashboard, but this is the YouTube studio, what my content tab looks like, which shows all my recent videos and that sort of stuff. And we can look at just some of the things going on with them. That one, I will go maybe my journey through Angle of Mythathel. We will look at some of the YouTube title description stuff I do, including search engine optimization, playing towards the YouTube algorithm, and all that other stuff that goes into a video. So let's see. Yes, we have the title. A lot of things I see with LOTRO videos sometimes, we can actually go back here, is maybe this would be bad just searching LOTRO, but some people will put like LOTRO not in all caps, and this is something that I almost wonder if it's more of a foreign language type thing. Like this one has OT uncapitalized, which can be okay, but typically with acronyms, we capitalize every letter in the acronym, not just the first letter in the acronym, like the L. That's something I see pretty commonly. L capitalized and then OTRO not capitalized. So if I can get back to my own video here, that is something that is really important. And just if I am looking for a video on something and see it poor grammar in the title, I am unlikely to click the video. But yeah, this is a pretty straightforward title. It's just Journey Through the Angle of Myth Aethel, and then update. I give a little bit more technical description of what it is. That's a little bit of search engine optimization. So if I go to the analytics of this video, which hopefully, yes, it looks like this is safe to show, we can actually see, okay, I got 8.1% of my views from YouTube search. And that is really where the search engine optimization helps, because if they search whatever and then your video comes up, that is where it helps. So having update 32 might have actually helped by having that in the title. So if we got back to the video description, but anyway, that's just an example of where having the update 32 new zone preview might have helped. And it's just something if people see, oh, new zone, maybe they'll click it at something like that. So next up with the description, the first few lines in the description are your opportunity to shove as much search engine optimization and keywords into the description, into the video, while also trying to maintain a sense of structure. So something I often do is I put the full name Lord of the Rings Online, since I often don't put that on my title. It's an area to put in the description. I also tried to do keywords like update 32. I actually started this description with update 32 and like new. That's a lot of people like to see new stuff, so you try to shove new in as much as possible. And if you can, it's also really good to put the year. People search things like LOTRO 2021, LOTRO 2022, so having the year in there is also pretty good. I don't have that in here because it goes to this balance of doing something that, yeah, might help the views, but it's like actually not really relevant to anything, me putting the year 2022 in here. And then I just say what I do without trying to spoil the video. Explore the landscape, including the world building sites and connections to Trollshaws and Eregion. Put a couple other zones in there. I also like to, in my description, give somebody, say, a suggestion. I don't know how much people would actually go to this, but I like to put a link to another relevant video. So I made a video on the new Trollshaws and Rivendell Stable Masters, so I just put a link there for people that want to go to that. And then I have all my information. There's the LOTRO news playlist, which this would be included in, subscribe link, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, so you can become a channel member to support the content. That is important. And then timestamps, that's those little sections in the video. Oh yeah, so these sections in the video, that just helps split it up a little bit if somebody wants to see a particular part. This one was kind of, it almost didn't even need sections because there's like journey overview, and then I go to the journey. I mainly did that so people could just skip to me actually going to the zone if they wanted. And then there was actually a LOTRO points giveaway in this video that I hid somewhere near the end. I don't even remember exactly where. And I didn't want to highlight that in the section at all, so then I just had journey's conclusion. But yeah, that was what was going on with that video. And timestamps, what that helps with. I also do like to put where I get the end screen music because I think it can be a little bit important if people are looking. And hey, it's another place to shove in the word LOTRO. I actually don't know where this music is from. That is true. That's why I put a Eregion and question mark. And then these little hashtags here, LOTRO update 32 and Myth Aethel. That used to work completely fine for me, but there was a period where not all of them were showing up, but you can put 3 of those in your description and it will come up here. So it's like a quick way to get to that and maybe helps. I don't know, using all of YouTube's features seems to be generally helpful. 5,000 videos for hey, I'm like the top one there. That's pretty neat. I wonder if that's because I'm logged into my account now and not in the... See, this is something I actually do personally get curious on. What happens if I look at YouTube in guest mode, not actually signed in, and this is basically a version of YouTube without any cookies or anything to show that I basically have my own videos and all that sort of stuff, and all the recommendations it gives me is based on what I watch. I do have quite a few videos here, so that's pretty neat. This type of thing, this is really random and it's getting very irrelevant to whatever I had for the video making process, but it's one of those things that can maybe inspire if I go back to this. Okay, so this actually goes back to something like the what video to make, the idea, the vision, the plan. This could actually be something just to see what other people are making content of in LOTRO. You can get an idea of maybe what you want to make, just some ideas. Say you want to talk about your top 7 zones, something like that. Or you want to discuss your LOTRO UI. You see Manapods video there on that. I don't know. Who knows the YouTube algorithm? Long story short, just hope the YouTube algorithm works in your favor. But I think it is time to wrap it up on that. Oh, I did not talk about the end screen. So that is another thing. It's fairly minor overall, but if we go to the end of this video, the last 20 seconds on YouTube, there's an end screen. I basically put, hey, put my channel here so people can click that, or it gives a recommended video. I think this is my latest video, and then gives a recommended video is what I do with that. And then I usually have some background and some music, which y'all probably can't hear because it looks like OBS is not recording. There's no audio going through. But yes, this is the full process of me making a video. Again, it goes from having an idea of what video I want to make, whether the inspiration from that could come from something I recorded, like I just was recording some gameplay that might be relevant for a future video just to put in the background. Maybe that even gave me an idea of what video to make. Maybe some in-game footage, something in-game would give me an idea. There are things like LOTRO news when new patch notes are released, or just anything interesting like that. So that turns into an idea, and then I have to have a vision for the video, and then I can actually plan it out and again write it like I did this one with more of a full script type video, or do more of an outline and do all sort of research for relevant in-game info. I do actually still have LOTRO up, and it's even more neat. This looks like an inspiring a place to get some inspiration if you wanted. That's actually why I went to 4Cal, just because it's a neat place. But anyway, back to the outline here. I then record it in OBS, just like I'm doing right now. Here we go. And then we have, after that, yes, I have to do all the setup, all that sort of stuff, and then editing. I know the editing here is like so short, but there's so many different things going on there that it's kind of hard to condense here. That's why I think this video actually got a little bit off track, and I'll need to do a lot of editing to clean it up. And then thumbnail, make it interesting for people to click on, something appealing. That's really the thing. You want something people click, but I really do try to balance not making it too clickbaity or just like way too flashy. And I try to have a consistent style. That is another important part, just having something people would recognize it as my video based on what the thumbnail generally looks like. So they can know they want to watch me, maybe, or not watch me. That's also a possibility. And then I actually upload. Editing would include rendering, by the way, but I also do the final thing is to upload on YouTube, do all that stuff, and schedule it, or just release it, or however you want to release the video and set it free. So as with this video, what we have done is we have completed all three of these things for the most part. I have to actually finish the recording, then I'll edit it, make a thumbnail, and upload it to YouTube, and that is the process. Again, as a reminder, I do plan to make individual videos. I know I went into a little bit of detail on certain things here and didn't go into as much detail on others maybe, but I do plan to make individual videos, ideally on each of these processes if people are interested. That is one thing with videos. Sometimes you have this idea, vision, plan, but then people just aren't interested in the videos at all, and then you consider it not worth your time, not worth your investment into actually making the video. That is something important that I at least have to think about, is the opportunity cost. If I can make a video on something that's, decently interesting, but would take a lot of work, maybe I'd rather do something that's slightly less interesting, but takes a whole lot less work. For example, some of my PC building videos, I think I only ended up with 2 of them just because not many people ended up watching them. And something like Sea of Thieves, if we go back to my channel content here, that one didn't get many videos. So I'm thinking about doing my first impressions on the game because I have played it for quite a few hours, but is it worth that when I could maybe do something else instead that I still would like to do? I forgot how I even got started on that sidetrack, but yeah, that is why outlines tend to lean towards this type of video where it's a whole bunch of random rambling, and less so something that actually has a very solid and rigid structure to it, like a more scripted out video like this one in Harad. Okay, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up here for this video. It's been a very long time, but also a very fun time. So yes, now I remember, if you all want to see more of these type of videos, please do let me know if it's interesting to you or even helpful. It's a little bit guide-like in a way. I do hope it's helpful and you all maybe enjoy it just to get to see some of the background. This is a part of my 10,000 subscriber special. Don't know when this video will be up, maybe when I reach 10K, but I am planning on doing some other things, so stay tuned for some exciting stuff so we can, 1, I still need to get to 10K, and 2, for after we get to 10K, 11K, 11,111 will be my next goal after that, so that's something to look forward to. And with that, if you all have any thoughts on my video process, if you maybe have some suggestions for things for me to change or just different things you'd like to see, please do let me know. That's another general tip. Be open to feedback. It is important. And I'll end on that note. So as far as this video goes, if you all did enjoy or learn something useful, please do consider liking and subscribing for more, or becoming a channel member to support the content. And thanks for watching, everyone.